Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our first webinar with Dr. Ann Zedler. Ann used to be our PhD student. She graduated last December in business and psychology. And today she is with us to talk about how to avoid burnout. Thank you, Ann.
Thank you very much, Suha, for the nice introduction. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be able to present some of my thoughts on burnout and on stress. I think this is something that we deal with continuously. I need to get used to this camera. Please excuse me if, but it's something that's part of our life. These are stressful times. These are the modern times are times of pressure. And it seems that it is a continuous pressure. And in my experience now, after having taught many years at university, I have now established a private practice in psychotherapy. And many of my clients, my patients, suffer from burnout. And so I myself suffered from burnout a few years ago and learned a great deal about myself, about how to change your own life in order to avoid it, because oftentimes one goes through a burnout and then you go take care of yourself for a while and you deal with the symptoms and you deal with the external pressures and try to find ways to alleviate these pressures, and then you continue living the way you lived before, but you think that it's all taken care of because you've been to a clinic, you've taken time off, you've relaxed, you've meditated, you've done everything that people tell you to do. You need to relax and you need to slow down. And so you do that for a while. You do that for 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever. Some of my patients have done it for 16 weeks. And a year later, they're at the same point. So here is why I called my presentation, Change Your Perspective and Your Life Will Change, because that's what it takes. It needs to take a major change inside. It needs it takes something where you look inside and you say, what is it that I need to change in myself first in order to deal with the stress that I feel inside and the stress, or rather the pressures that come from the outside. Because each and every one of us, we deal with stress differently. Depending on how long we experience stress, how we deal with it is another thing, but most importantly, it's how we perceive stress. And I don't know how you feel about it, but when people say stress, it's like, oh, negative. But that's not true. I mean, when you think about what stress does to you, it's not always bad. Actually, stress fosters growth. Stress is something that we can see positively, and we can all relate to that, because think of times when you're excited about something that is important to you, whether it be a wedding, whether it be a change in your life, job-wise, or family change, something that you're working toward. And so we have this uplifting sentiment and this drive to reach that goal. And it excites us, and it keeps us going, and it's something that we want to reach because it's something that is good for us. So we reach that goal, and then we relax because we have reached that goal. And that's good stress. That's what we call eustress. But most of the time people think of distress. But eustress is the stress that we can deal with because we know there's an end to it. There's an end to it, and when it's done, we relax, we actually are happy about the result, and then we can continue. The problem with distress is that we internalize it. It becomes something that is just inside to pressure us to go on, and it's a result of the outside pressures coming either from family, from work, from our personality, the way we look at life, whatever it may be. But it keeps us going in the sense that we are driven to always do something, to always be on the goal. Work is a task, and so is living. Living becomes a task, and living is not a task. Life is made to be enjoyed. Life is made to be lived. Even though you do work, we all have we all have work to do, we all have our duties, we all have things that we are passionate about, that we like to do, and that's a good thing. But when it takes over, when everything takes over and you no longer have a feeling for yourself, then you get lost. Then you get lost in all of these pressures that are coming from all sides, and at the end, you don't know what to do anymore. So here is what I'm trying to look at is not only coming down, relaxing, but slowing down. Now, with our corona crisis, we've had to slow down. I mean, there was no option. And in reality, that was quite a good thing, you know. If you think about it, 3 months or 4 months now, where you could not do much. So you were forced to be bored sometimes. And that's great, because you start sometimes to look at yourself. You start looking at maybe some changes that you'd like to make. That's looking at stress, or looking at something that is not so positive in a positive light. What can I learn from this? What is the challenge? What can I do with this? And this is the essence of avoiding burnout. That's the core of what I'm trying to say. You'll never be able to enjoy life if you're always hurried, if you're always worried, if you're always on the run, and always thinking about the next thing that you need to do. And so here, that's changing your perspective and changing your life. Let's take a quick look here at the first slide. Okay, wait a minute. There we go. What is burnout? Now, there are many definitions of burnout, but let me just quickly say it's a state of emotional, mental, physical exhaustion, and it's caused by not only excessive, but prolonged. It's prolonged stress because it never ends. And something that never ends will exhaust you, will take all of your energy. If you continue and never let go, then when you reach that stage, you're overwhelmed. You're just unable to meet any kinds of demands, let alone the daily demands of life. And then you lose interest and you lose motivation. I can think of a number of patients who have come and who just sit there and say, I've got nothing more to give. I've got nothing more to say. I don't know what to do. I can't do what I used to do. And so now I don't know how to live. And so you see, burnout is not only does it reduce your productivity, but it takes all of your energy. And then what happens when you have no energy? Just think about that. When you're just exhausted, then you feel helpless. Sometimes you get a little bit cynical, pessimistic, resentful because you're feeling what you're feeling and you don't want to deal with that. I have a patient right now who says, I just don't understand why it is that I'm like this. I don't want this. I said, well, we'll get through with this. Well, give me a quick fix. I said, well, I'm sorry, can't do that. And so we work on it. It's as if you get to the point in burnout where you have nothing more to give. And that is the definition of burnout, because every day is a bad day. You don't really care about anything anymore. It's a total waste of energy for yourself. Can you see this? There we go. Is that better? There we go. Got it. You're exhausted all the time?
They can download it. The
Ah,
the
okay.
audience can
Okay.
download it if they
All
want.
right.
It's
Then it's good.
to
Well, then I
the
can see it better now.
yes, yeah.
And you just feel anything that you're doing every day just doesn't feel good. It feels either overwhelming or it just feels dull and not interesting. And whatever you do, you don't feel appreciated. You don't feel as if it ever makes any difference. And so it spills over. It spills over into your work, not only from your work life to your social life to your family life. It makes you more vulnerable to colds, flus. You get sick a lot. You can't take much pressure. You're tired. I mean, all of this are clear indications of burnout. Now, there's a difference though between stress and burnout. When you have too much stress, just think about, I mean, we all can relate to this. I have a lot of stress, but there's an end, and if I can only get this under my control, it'll all be okay. So it's too much, and I know it's too much, but I think I can control it. If I can just get everything under control, then it's okay. And I often can. I often get things going and finish up and then keep on going, but I still feel in control. And so I know it's too much, but I can deal with it. Burnout, on the other hand, is beyond that. Burnout, on the other hand, is beyond that in that it makes you feel empty. It purges you of all energy, of motivation. You don't care about things anymore. Actually, you don't think that there's any chance that you might ever feel positively about anything anymore. It's as if, as I said, being totally empty, totally dried out. You you don't even notice that this is happening. This is something that is also a difference between excessive stress and burnout. We know when we're under a lot of stress. We can say that. We say, this is what's happening right now, but if I do this way, and I organize and I structure, then it'll be okay. And it is, because I'm in control. When I'm on the road to burnout, I don't notice that. I just feel overwhelmed. I don't know what's happening, and I just feel I can't do anything anymore. So if we go to, whoops, there we go. If we look again at the difference, because on the one hand, stress, of course, can kill you. Because in the end, if you don't do anything about it, you're full of hyperactivity. You keep going. You get anxiety disorders at times. It's a physical damage that is done. And I just the other day I heard of someone who was going, and at I think he was 45, he collapsed and had a heart attack, and that was that. Sometimes you have a heart attack and survive. This time, unfortunately, he didn't. And again, it was excessive stress and not listening to the signs. But it was major physical, because he was building something. He was building his organization and expanding, and so he was driven and quite motivated, but just was not able to take it physically. With burnout, once you reach the stage of burnout here, the emotions, your emotions aren't, you don't feel those emotions. Actually, they're pretty dulled. You don't feel much. You go back, as I said, to helplessness. But the motivation that's lost, hope is lost, ideals, you become detached, you become depressed. That's often something that goes hand in hand with burnout, is depression. And here you've got your primary damage is emotional. And what is worse is sometimes, since you have nothing that keeps you going, nothing that gives you any joy, your life often seems not worth living. That's the stage of burnout. And And here is where you need to do a lot of work on yourself, where you think, why am I trying to do this? Why am I trying to do everything all the time? So let's look at this. You've got your work-related causes, you've got a lifestyle, and you've got personality. Now, work-related and lifestyle, I mean, these three are the causes of burnout. And often you talk about work-related. You don't often talk about lifestyle and personality, sometimes about personality as well, but mostly it's here, what are my work-related causes? And we can list them, sure. Let's look at them. You have little or no control over your work, lack of recognition and rewards for good work, unclear or overly demanding job expectations, doing work that's monotonous and challenging or unchallenging, or working in an unorganized and high-pressure environment. Now, feeling little or no control over your work. That's something, if when you're exposed to that, you see things happening and you can't change them. There's nothing that you can do or say, or you've tried and nothing has been done, or you're not heard, or again, it's this feeling of not being able to have any kind of influence, makes you feel helpless, makes you feel hopeless. I can't change anything. What can I do? And again here, thinking about what is something that I can do to change this situation? In what ways can I change this situation? The lack of recognition and rewards, that might have something to do also with lifestyle and personality and experiences in childhood. Lack of recognition, when you don't feel appreciated, loved in a way in which parenting has shown you that you are loved, that you are recognized, that you are rewarded, that might spill over to a feeling of inadequacy, where I have to do this, I have to do more, I have to prove myself, I have to show that I am worth something. And this, of course, goes over and spills over also into your work. But we'll go into that when we go into personality and lifestyle. Unclear, how many of us don't really know what exactly our job entails, or there are too many duties that are associated with the job, or expectations that we're not aware of, and that someone tells us then, our boss or whoever who is above us says, well, wait a minute, this is part of your job. So every time you do something or not do something, you're told, well, this is part of your job. So again, not being able to deal with this kind of environment or not being able to change that. Again here, what can I do to change this situation? These are the questions, taking in these work-related causes is one thing, but looking and perceiving the stress differently and saying, okay, I really don't know what the job expectations are. Maybe I should clear that up. Maybe I should ask. Maybe I should do something about it. Maybe I should take a responsibility for this. Not for the job expectations, but finding out what the job expectations are. Do my part in that. That's a little bit of a different perception where you do your share as well. So that you can do something about it. Again, then that gives you more control. And that shows you that you're doing something about it. Same goes with work that is monotonous or unchallenging. Try to change that. Maybe it's not easy, maybe it's not possible, but you're in action and you're doing something for yourself. If you feel that the work is monotonous and unchallenging, well, let's see what you can do about it. Think about it. Think of possible solutions. Again, that will point you in a different direction where you're no longer a victim, where you become someone who takes action. You may not succeed, But again, that will tell you something and you will go on with your life. High pressure environment, unorganized, again, the same thing. Sometimes high pressure environment, you may see, oh, this is nothing for me. I can say that for myself. If when I felt very much under pressure for many things, I knew that this was something that was not healthy for me, and this was something that I didn't want to do anymore. And so you look for a change. You look, what can you change, and how can you change that so that you become a more satisfied and happy human being. But you don't realize that until you've gone through burnout. Not necessarily have to go through, but these are things that I realized having gone through burnout. If you look at the lifestyle, because what happens when, just going back here to lack of recognition or rewards, you work a lot. If you don't get recognized, if you don't get rewarded in one way or another, and not necessarily now in a monetary fashion, feeling appreciated, you feel that you need to do more, that you need to concentrate and focus more, and then maybe they'll see me. This is something that also stems from your experience, maybe in childhood, maybe in school. If I do more, then my dad will see me. If I do more, maybe my mom will love me more. These are things that leave scars. And if that continues then in the work world, then you find yourself working too much, because that becomes the essence and the focus of your life. So no time for relaxing, no time for socializing, because there's no purpose for that. Why should I relax? Why should I socialize? But that won't help, because that won't help me be recognized. That won't help me be rewarded, and that's what I want. So my focus is on work and getting recognized. So I forget myself. I don't have enough time, and I don't really want to. Why should I relax? Why should I socialize? So that's a lifestyle. Being expected to be too many things to too many people. I have several patients who had to go through that because they felt that was their role. My role is to satisfy every need of everyone who comes to me, whether it's my family, my friend, my work colleague. I am there for everyone, anytime. That takes its toll. And you asking yourself, I said, often I ask the question, I say, so what has that done for you? Is that something that you've always wanted to do? Is it something that you find that is your purpose in life? To be there for everyone at every time, all the time? And often the answer is, well, no, there were times when I really didn't want to, or I really couldn't, or I was tired, or I just was, but I did so anyway. So the question is why? These are the questions you ask yourself. These are the questions, why are you doing this? What is it that keeps you doing things that you don't want to do? And so you look at yourself and you say, well, how much do I love myself? How much do I like myself? How much good do I want to do for myself? Good question. Because if you're not important to yourself, then none of this is important. What is important in your life is to do what others want you to do, and then you find a reason of existence. But actually, you're wonderful just the way you are, and you're here because you should be here, and that's wonderful. Not doing anything is good. Do something for yourself. That's good too. And these are the things these are questions that you ask yourself when you're in the state of burnout where nothing matters. Nothing matters. And I'm totally devoid, and I don't know what to do and how to live. So, questions you ask. Taking on too many responsibilities without enough help from others. I think I was pretty good at that. I can do that, sure. I remember, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I can do that. Nah, yeah. And so, oh, okay, no problem. It's not really my responsibility, but I take it anyway because I like to, because I think, and I like to please people, and I like to make them feel good, and I like to make them feel good about me. I'm doing this, and I have control, responsibility. I'm taking responsibility. That shows that I have control. I've got all these responsibilities. I take them on. Nobody wants them because they want they want to have less work, and I just take it on. So here, where are you in all of this? Um, why are you doing this? Why don't you want to ask for help? Maybe it's because you've learned that you shouldn't ask for help, that you should be independent in everything, and that asking for help is a weakness. Not true, of course. So, again, questions that you ask yourself. Is this really my responsibility? I have a patient right now who has that type of lifestyle, taking on all responsibilities. And right now he's thinking about, why am I doing this? Is this really mine? Is this my responsibility? Or am I just taking it on because that's just what I've done for all my life? Questions. And he's dealing with them and starting to say, no, this isn't my responsibility. And actually, I should give it back to the person who's trying to give me his or her responsibility. So, when you work too much and you take on too many responsibilities, you don't get enough sleep. You don't sleep well. You may go to bed. That's another thing. Oh, what time is it? Okay, 11. Okay, I have to get up at 7. That'll give me 8 hours of sleep. Oh, right. Controlled by the clock, controlled by things. Even sleep is controlled. Oh my gosh, it's 1 o'clock. It's 1 a.m. That'll only give me 5 or 6 hours. I'm going to be tired tomorrow. And right, you are. Because if that's your lifestyle and you don't get enough sleep, then of course that'll take its toll. Not getting enough sleep opens you up, makes you vulnerable to excessive stress, prolonged stress, and then going on into burnout. So again, but restful sleep is another thing. Sleep is one thing, but restful sleep is another. And you know what's one of the best things to do in any kind of situation when you feel stressed, when you can't sleep, is breathing. All you have to do is breathe in and out, in and out. You do that 5 times, 10 times, standing in the supermarket and you feel stressed, breathe. Deep breaths inside and out. And you just concentrate on that, and everything else is out of your realm of focus. If you just do that, you'll come down. Try it, you'll see. It really does work, and it's very, very simple to do. So these are things: coming down, relaxing, and breathing, and only concentrating on that, and that will help you see things maybe a little more clearly. Another lifestyle that cause would be the lack of close supportive relationships. That is something that does, that's difficult. That's difficult when you don't have people, friends, close friends, people you can call, people you can talk to who will understand you, and maybe that comes through your work-related behavior, maybe because you just don't have the time. And if I go back to the slide here, no, what was this here? Wait a minute, just one. Okay, where was this? All right. Well, what I meant to say, sorry, I thought I had, here it was, yes. When you're working too much with not enough time for relaxing and socializing, well, then of course you're not going to have close, supportive relationships because you don't have time. You don't have time to create these close, supportive relationships because you're not there and you're not interested because work takes over or your responsibilities take over. So you're so busy doing things for everyone else that you don't know how just to be instead of doing, just to live and to be. And then you open up and find people that you can relate to who are and with whom you can speak and create those supportive relationships. So lifestyle, yes, look at your lifestyle. Think about these things and think about what is it that I can change if you feel that you're on this road, that you're doing too much. Well, look at that and see, ask yourself, what can I do to change that? Now let's look at some of the personality traits. Being a perfectionist is one. That is a biggie. Nothing is ever good enough. I have to do it all myself because nobody can do it as well as I can. That's the essence. You cannot delegate, or you'll delegate and then you'll check. Check to see if it's done okay. Right, the way you do it. Let me correct myself here. That's very simply, I go back to my patient that's exactly what he's dealing with right now, where his wife often says, I don't understand, you must not really trust me. She locks the door and they're ready to go, and he says, did you lock the door? And she says yes, and he says, okay, good, and then he goes back and checks. Same with his son when he mows the lawn. Right now he can't mow the lawn, the father, because he's not feeling well. Anything that he does is exhausting. He can't even cook noodles. He can't do anything. Anything that calls for any kind of effort is exhausting to him. So his son is mowing the lawn. So he watches him because I told him he needs to sit and watch. Just relax. But he can't relax, so he watches and then he checks and he says, well, the lawn, yeah, you did an okay job, but you missed it here and you missed it here and I said, and that's all kinds of stress. Why is that so important? The important thing is he mowed the lawn. It's done. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It's done the way your son has done it. He tries to do his best. So just acknowledge that. And it's done, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. It has nothing to do with how you do it or that it should be done the way you do it, because that is just too much stress on the individual. And so here, the learning, nothing is ever good enough. Of course, everything is good enough. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that you should just do things and not take care and not be precise. Not at all. But not in a perfectionist tendency. Not in such a way that it takes over all of everything that you do, and it must be perfect. Nothing is ever so perfect. And so we need to look at ourselves and say, okay, we're human beings and we're not perfect. We are not perfect human beings. And that is a fact. And I need to learn to accept myself as a non-perfect human being who does his or her best. And that's good. And that's okay. And it's good the way it is. And so I can also then accept myself the way I am and not always want to be different and to do more, to be more, to be better. Always being better is also stressful, puts you under a lot of pressure because you're never satisfied. You are never satisfied with yourself. And so you can never relax. You can never feel good about yourself because it's still not good enough. And here, again, that's a learning process, and that can take its toll and contribute, of course, to burnout. But that goes hand in hand with a pessimistic view. A pessimistic view of yourself means you don't like yourself. Self-love, loving yourself, is something that is very important, regardless of all the mistakes that you may make. We all make mistakes, but that doesn't mean I don't love myself. I correct mistakes that I have made if I can, and I forgive myself for mistakes that I've made in the past, but that I can no longer correct, and I learn from them. But I still accept myself as a human being worthy of self-love. So I see myself in a positive light. I think good things, positive things about myself. That doesn't mean that I think I'm always the best, or again, going back to perfectionist. No, but I'm a human being who loves myself and who does whatever is possible to fulfill whatever responsibilities or duties I have in my life. And I don't get down on myself for mistakes that I have made, because we all make mistakes. And all you have to do is think about how you feel when a friend or a family member has made mistakes and you have sat there and said, that's okay, don't worry about it. That'll pass, it'll be okay. You can correct that. Don't worry. You're understanding and you're helpful and you're loving. But when it comes to yourself, no. No. You shouldn't have done that. No. You are very hard on yourself. And so it's a lesson of self-love that you go through also when you deal with the effects and trying to cope with and getting out of burnout. The need to control. I just spoke of that about that in just a moment ago. A reluctance or unwillingness to delegate to others. It's because you don't trust them, because you have your perfectionist tendencies, and so if I do this perfectly, they won't do it perfectly, so I have to do it myself. So I'm told to delegate. Okay, I delegate. I remember having a patient a few years ago who was totally overwhelmed in her work, and she had employees who were just waiting to help her. And she just took on all the work, and she worked. And of course, then she came to see me for a while. And I said exactly this. I said, why are you doing all of that? You have employees who can help you. And actually, you're showing them that they're not worth very much because they have nothing to do, because you don't give them anything to do. So what are you paying them for? They sit around and wait for you to give them something to do, and you don't. So it's a matter of trust. And also it's a matter of recognition. So why don't you try, little by little, giving them something to do and let them prove themselves and show you that they can do it. And so these are the things, and she did. It was hard, and it was done in small steps, and that's the way it should be done. But it's a realization. I can do this, yes. And actually then I have less to do, and I feel that I can breathe. I feel that I can live again and live more of my life than with all this work. So it's a try. It's worth a try, and it works. High achieving, type A personality. When I taught organizational behavior, we talked about a lot of about type A and type B personality. Your high achiever is the one who, one thing after another, one task is done, and immediately I go to the next task. I don't even spend time looking at what I've achieved and saying, wow, this is pretty good. I did a good job. Whoever does that? I do now. But no, you achieve something, okay, that's done, and you keep on going. But actually, it's a wonderful thing to be able, you achieve something, you achieve your goal, you do something that you have set as a goal for yourself, and you finish it, and you sit back, and you say, wow, that was good. I like what I've done. And now I'm going to reward myself. Not only am I going to praise myself and feel good about myself, but I'm going to reward myself. And I'm going to spend a weekend at the spa. So there. These are the things that show that you have also an appreciation of yourself. There's self-love and appreciation of yourself. You do that for any employee. Wow, you did a great job. Let me give you something for that. Let me take you to dinner. Let me do this. Let me show you the appreciation. One is the external appreciation, and the other is internal appreciation, telling yourself that you did a good job. Oh my gosh, I'm back. Okay, so those are the personality traits. And again, these are the things that we work on when we're working on burnout. Now if you look at the symptoms, physical symptoms, we've talked about already. The feeling exhausted, your immune system is down, being more prone, being more vulnerable to illnesses, headaches, back pain. Lots of people have that. At the time when I was going, when I hadn't really noticed that I had reached that stage, but I had severe headaches very often, back pain very often, sleeplessness, not being able to sleep as well. So those are your physical signs, and often they're not recognized. They're signs that will warn you, and often we don't use them, or we don't see them as warning signs. We do away with them. Let me take a little vacation. Let me take a break. I'll take an aspirin for my headache, and then I'll feel better. So we treat the symptoms, and we don't recognize it. Now, emotional is a little bit different. Self-doubt, sense of failure, the helplessness that we feel, loss of motivation, decreased satisfaction and sense of accomplishment. And when you start feeling any of these symptoms, when you start feeling that it's becoming more and more negative, your outlook, you're irritable, you're short-tempered, you don't believe in yourself that much anymore, you're not as motivated even for things that you like to do. These are sure signs that you should look at your life and look at your work and look at what you're doing to see if you can change anything, because these definitely are warning signs. Taking this a little further, just this is more on a psychological level, the inner emptiness that you feel, depression and depersonalization, meaning that you really lose contact with yourself, and that there's nothing that makes you happy. And often my question is, when treating burnout patients, is what is it that brings you joy? Do something that brings you joy. And often the answer that I get is, I don't know what brings me joy. There's nothing that brings me joy. And then you think about, I said, okay, well, what used to bring you joy? What is something that you like to do before this feeling? And sometimes you have to think about it. Well, I remember I like to do this, or I like to, but now it just doesn't do anything for me anymore. And it's getting back to this filling this inner emptiness. But filling the inner emptiness does not mean simply dealing with the symptoms. It means dealing with your inner self and building yourself up again, and looking at yourself and changing how you feel about yourself, and looking at yourself and saying, I want to lead a meaningful life for myself. And that's not being selfish. It's looking at yourself first, doing things that make you feel good, because when you feel good, then you can do lots of good for others. Then you can really be there for others because you're full of energy and self-love, and you can share that. When you're depleted of everything, there's not much that you can give. So here, there's a lesson in self-love, and that definitely is a big part of that in dealing with burnout. What happens when the emotional and physical signs, but what happens when you see people do this, then you know, well, there might be a real problem. You withdraw from your responsibilities, you isolate yourself, you take longer to get things done. Food, drugs, alcohol. I just need a drink now, or whatever drug you might take. Or let's go out to dinner again. Let me eat something. Taking out frustration on others. That's what I meant when I talked about being short-tempered, irritable. Because you just don't, you feel that something's lacking. You feel that you're at the end. And so somebody comes and asks you a simple question and you explode. That's what I mean, okay? Frustration taken out, well, don't take it out on me. Well, I'm not. But all of a sudden you think, oh, wow, that was uncalled for. Now, why do I do that? Okay? So because and the last is the skipping work and coming in late, or it's everything, all of these tendencies are to get rid of the feeling that you have. So I'm trying to escape. So I don't come to work, I call in sick, or I come in and then I leave and I don't do my work, or I forget things. You get very forgetful. Oh, I forgot to do that. How often did I say that? Oh gosh, I forgot. I don't know how I could forget that, but I did. And then you start doubting yourself. These are all the reasons we talked about beforehand. You start looking at yourself and thinking, wow, what's happening here? I don't understand. And so here's again where you try to, well, I can't do this anymore. Let me see if I can not, it's not a delegating, it's withdrawing. I'm not taking my own responsibilities, and thereby I isolate myself. So let's look at how we can prevent, what we can do. And these are only a few indicators, but it's in essence, it's a work on yourself. I mean, starting the day with a relaxing ritual, that's great. Relaxing, starting your day in silence, or in just being quiet and taking 3 minutes to breathe. Just waking up and breathing in and out, deep breaths, and then thinking about it's a new day and it's going to be a good day. That's a relaxing start. Looking at your eating habits, looking at exercising, sleeping habits, look at that. That's something that's we all know that, but to apply it is a different thing. I mean, yes, I know I need to do this, I know I need to do that, but it's a decision. It's a decision that you make. I want to be good to myself, I want to feel better, and this is what I need to do. So there's a bit of self-discipline that's also involved when you decide, I'm going to change this. Setting boundaries, so very, very important. not taking on everything, not responding to all of the expectations, but to say no, learning to say no. I'm sorry, I can't do this. And so, you know, what is said here, when you say, there's a simple way. When you say no to someone, you're saying yes to yourself. It's a good way to remember that. When you say no to a request, you're saying yes to yourself. You're giving yourself time to do something that you really want to do. So make a difference. What is it that you want to do for someone else, and where are the boundaries, and set them. Practice. This needs a lot of practice, especially if you've spent many, many years saying yes to everything. Then, of course, it takes a lot of practice to say no and say yes to yourself. Taking a daily break from technology. Absolutely. Absolutely. I do that every day, a few times a day, because spending your entire day on the computer or with patients and then back to the computer, you need breaks. You need to go out and just take a little walk. Maybe not a walk, maybe just outside breathing and just enjoying, taking a look at the world around you. Take a break, technology break. Creative. I've started to write. Okay, and this is something you think about. It's something that I've always wanted to do. It's something that I've always thought about and never really started. And now, in these 3 months, I had nothing to do. I started to write, and I think that's wonderful. It's a creative side that you know you have, but you haven't given it any room, and so now you give it some room every day. You do something fun, something that is good for you, and something that has nothing to do with work or anything that you're involved in otherwise. Something very different, and do it. Think about it, and then learning, of course, how to manage your stress. We've talked about that, and how what can I change? What can I do to regain control and regain my balance? There are 3 R's: recognize, reverse, resilience. Watch for the warning signs. Reverse, undo the damage by managing stress and seeking support. Look for help. See what you can change. And build your resilience to stress by taking care of your physical and emotional health. And so you do that, you're on a good road to not suffering from burnout, maybe from stress, but if you can deal with it, we all deal with stress, but being good to yourself and looking at what I can do to change in my life so that I can become stronger and more resilient, and you'll lead a life that is good for yourself. Thank you so much. Thank you for having listened to the ideas that I had and maybe some of the tips that I could give you. And I hope you have a wonderful evening, and thank you. Thank you for having been here.
Anne. Thank you very much.
You're
And now
welcome.
we can have one question, because we are at the end, and 1 or 2. And if you want, you can send your questions by email to the school, and we'll forward it to
Okay, yeah,
Dr.
that's good.
Zedler. No problem. But I have a question, Anne.
Yeah.
To create attention, sometimes not always we need to do lots of more and more and more. Sometimes we need to do some naughty things, no?
Sometimes you do. I didn't quite understand. Sometimes we need to.
Naughty things or mistakes. You make mistakes. You
Yeah.
try to create attention through mistakes or no
Oh yes,
mistakes.
yes, yes. Of course. Of course, that of course is a way. But sometimes, yes, mistakes can be used so that people notice you. Yes,
Exactly.
that's. But then it's something that is planned, so to speak, because you want people to see you. The other, what I was talking about is a mistake where you go down hard on yourself and you say, oh, you shouldn't have done that. The one is planning, one is dealing with your mistake and correcting it. But yes, you're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are times when we use mistakes so that others see us and give us maybe
Especially the
a
kids,
chance.
especially the kids towards their parents.
Yeah, of course,
That's
of
most
course,
of the time. Yeah.
of
Anyway,
course.
other question, one question if you want. Someone, one question. Someone is typing.
Can I
Hello? Hello? Matina?
yeah,
Yes,
hear me?
please. Yes, yes, we can.
Let me
What?
put my on.
No, we can't
Okay,
see, we can't hear you clearly.
can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
I wanted to ask if this seminar will be for others to see.
We
I'm sorry,
couldn't hear Martina.
I'm sorry I didn't hear, or I
Will
couldn't understand rather.
okay.
You need to
Maybe you
know
should
whether
type
the
it.
seminar is recorded.
Yes.
Yes, yes, it
all-
is. It is. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Don't worry.
Ah, okay.
Other questions? You have lots of fantastic art. It was really fantastic. Okay,
Thank
so
you so much.
let's wrap it up. And so for this, this is the introductory of a long course, and Dr. Zedler will be available in September for a short course. Please, if you are interested, contact the school at info@ikinstitute.org, and we will supply with all the information. Second, next week we will have another seminar with our student, Christos Veretas. He is our PhD student and PhD candidate, and he will be talking about smart devices and security and private security. So it's going to be also as good as this week. That's all?
Yes.
Do you agree? Yeah.
Yeah.
And also after we will have other topics will be announced. And what else I wanted to say, that only really big thank you, Anne. It was
You're
really,
most
really
welcome.
very interesting. And hopefully we'll have more audiences for the short course you will be offering in September. We will be supplying all information, but please write to the school, info@ikinstitute.org. And someone, you are amazing, Anne.
Oh, thank you. Thank
We
you
are
so
just,
much. Oh,
thank
thank
you very
you.
much. So these were the announcements. First, this seminar will have a continuation with Dr. Zedler in September. You have to sign up for that. Next week with Christos, our PhD candidate on cybersecurity. And of course, we will have other seminars coming, and we will be announcing them on Facebook, on LinkedIn, wherever. But please, you need information, contact us. And thank you very much and have a lovely weekend.